We'll go? All right. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting of the inspectors of the Carbon County Jail to order. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. These meetings are being recorded for the sole purpose of preparing accurate written minutes. Recordings are overwritten following approval of the minutes, eliminating all unofficial records of these proceedings. Are there any guests present? Would the body like to talk to, I know we had requested Carmen Monroe Pike to come here. Do you want to take them now, or should we wait? I mean, there's a few of them here.
No.
Why don't we bring them in?
Why don't you bring them in?
Rather than have them sit in the hallway until we get through some of these things. Okay, at our last meeting, we requested that Carmen Monroe Pike Drug and Alcohol, here, I guess there's a new contract that we have, and there was some discussion around concerns of not having any type of counseling or group counseling taking place at the prison. So we wanted to find out what we can do to work through that, or what the issues were.
Okay, so the initial issue is really staffing and the ability to get anybody. Even at this point, we have open positions as well in our office, and we heighten in exploring the options. One of the things we had talked about at one meeting, and actually the sheriff had brought it up as a suggestion, is the potential of telehealth, and looking at going that route rather than having a physical body at the jail. And we just actually did put a dummy ad on Indeed just to see if we'd get any bites for either just in general a position telehealth, and we have gotten some bites that way. People have applied now for that, which we don't really have an established position yet. We just wanted to see if that would be, something that would work. So feeling that's the way we could more be able to fulfill something rather than in person at this point in time. And we would utilize our case manager, who already goes to the jail as part of Laddie program and reentry, to be able to sign paperwork and things like that we need to get taken care of in that fashion. Logistically, obviously, we'd have to work out some things, and that would be between the jail and Lynn, who is our person who's in charge of all of our treatment programs.
How many are you short over there?
Right now in our office,
Yeah.
so in office, we have a full-time position open, and then the jail position, which is with the person who's at the jail, and then would also see some people in the office. We just did hire a part-time person who's only going to see 12 clients in the office. And some of what we hire has to also depend on who can see who based on insurances and things like that. So in order to see certain folks, you have to have a certain degree, that kind of thing. So for us to be able to see the folks at the jail, obviously they won't have insurance. So those can be all bachelor's level individuals versus some insurances where we have to have in-house master's level clinicians to see those people.
Gordon, do you have any questions?
We just recently had a DOC inspection. One of the big highlights was that we don't offer any group and individual counseling. We have Larner, like you said, for the evaluation, but we don't have any kind of group or individual evaluation for the inmates. And that was a sticking point with the DOC. And I know we haven't had anybody in for probably it's been well over a year.
So our last billing was in, I believe, June of last year was the last, and then last year what we were doing is we were sending the supervisor up to just do what she was able to see who necessarily had to be seen at the time. But this has happened since COVID. We've had trouble staffing our field, although there's been a lot of total agencies have gone total remote, don't even have in-house services anymore, and a lot of people gravitating towards those kind of counseling services as well, both as wanting employees and people looking for services. So that's where it's at. So it's not, it's a matter of finding somebody to be able to do that. So our last person we had there full time, once she left, then we weren't able to engage anybody else.
How many inmates require this type of service?
Off the top
So what I would say is we had somebody as a full-time equivalent in there, and we still have to follow all the regulations of the state, which only allows you to have a 35-to-1 ratio per counselor, so that was all that person could see. So at that time, they were seeing a mix of the medium block and the female block, to make up that one full-time equivalent. I certainly feel like we probably could do more than one full-time equivalent, but it would be the reality of finding enough people, staff to be able to do that type of services as well. And then again, whether remotely, how that would work logistically.
I know we also talked, the warden's planning another job fair. So I'd mentioned to somebody, is it beneficial to advertise the positions that you have available because they are directly related to the prison, to see if you get any recruitment from that process? You would have to make somebody available
We certainly would
to
be
do
willing to
the
bring
interviews
somebody
on
in.
the
Yeah,
day of the job fair, but
absolutely.
I don't think it would hurt anything to advertise it, because it's already gonna be advertised for COs or the other positions that are there. So that might be a way to do that. And I guess my other question is there any restrictions from the DOC or anything else that would prevent remote counseling sessions? And if we had to do that, like what would that look like? Would it be in a group? Would it be individual? I don't know what the DOC regs are, if that's allowed.
We do remote telepsych and stuff like that now, and I know from talking to the warden at Lehigh, I talked to Warden Height a lot of them ago, I think he's having some of the same problems we are. They have done some of that.
So, one other thing is, I had asked for permission to talk to Prime Care about medication-assisted treatment in the jail, because we already have that going in Pike County. And again, with those folks, should that proceed, those would be made as priority first for counseling, because part of being on medication-assisted treatment is you have to have counseling at least once a month. So those folks would be, kind of top of the list to get that.
And I know Prime Care is working on that, and that's one of their big hangups. They've been waiting for, to get some kind of drug and alcohol counselor to jail as well. I even reached out to Prime Care to see if they provided that type of service, but no.
And I will tell you, we are the only provider in the county. At one time, we also contracted with PATH to do drug and alcohol counseling. They since have closed down, so that's been a few years now. So we are it. In Pike County, we are the only provider in Pike County. The other providers have closed, and within the last maybe 5 years, 3 different providers closed. We're not able to continue service. Again, outpatient drug and alcohol is, shall I say, a loser. It's not, you're not making money. It's a matter of doing it to help the folks out that you can. Inpatient facilities open it up to feed their inpatient units kind of thing, but it really doesn't generate revenue that you're making all kind of money. So I've approached different organizations about coming in and being an additional provider in the county, and they've all said like it's not worth their while to do it. So we continue to pursue that as an option, and for the need that's there, but we really don't get any kind of bites that people really want to get into doing the service as well. So
Can I ask what other recruitment efforts you're putting into place to get these people hired? Like if they need a certain certification, whoever does that, a college or whatever, are you approaching them, recruiting through those efforts? Because we're at a year.
yeah, we have worked with East Stroudsburg University, because we typically were fed interns through them. And really, they haven't given us any clear reason why they see that we're not, that they're not getting people graduating, but they're not applying for the jobs. We used to go through the local newspapers, all that. We weren't getting any bites like that, so we went to utilizing Indeed, which seemed to at least give us folks. And we've had people apply, but either we couldn't even call them for an interview because they didn't meet any of the MATs, because we have to follow the MATs, the minimal standards that state Department of Drug and Alcohol programs goes through for all of our positions, since we fall under them. As UNEAT, we're not just a provider, but we're also the single county authority, so we have certain MATs we have to meet. So we've talked with them at DDOP about that. We've been involved in workforce looking at analyzing what's happening with the workforce. One thing we in our field have been able to do is that there were some loan forgiveness programs of which we did get a couple people. Like you could get loan forgiveness, you have to come sign on, work for so long in order to be eligible for that program. So we did have one person that we did hire that way. Unfortunately, she already is gone due to her doing something in our office that was not meeting our policies. So I think those are the primary kind of things. We get a lot of people through like word of mouth, like through, other people, other facilities, like when you talk out to other facilities, if you know anybody kind of thing, and, people are looking to leave one facility, go to the other kind of thing, but, no, and the other issue is we have not gotten any additional funds from the state, so, we can't do sign-on bonus, anything like that, and we're on a step and range, so if I were to bring somebody in and I would say to them, I can't pay that person more because they're gonna be at the point where somebody who's worked at my office for 10 years, within a year, they're gonna be making the same amount of money if I bring in somebody higher than following this established step and range from the state. So there isn't really a lot of incentive financially, and the pays are not that high to work in human services, and in the past, most people don't get into human service work because they're looking to make a huge amount of money, but unfortunately, there's a lot of businesses out there now where you can go work, say, Uline for $30 an hour, which, you'd have to work in our office for probably, 15, 20 years to be able to make $30 an hour.
Is there an avenue or any interest, Warden, for any of the COs to get certified to provide the service?
I'd have to check, I don't know off the top of my head, Sheriff. There was one thing in my conversations with Warden Heidel out of Monroe County. He said that they actually hired a drug and alcohol counselor. The county hired a drug and alcohol counselor to try and get counseling into the jail. I don't think that's an avenue we're looking at, but that's how he got around it. I talked to the warden at Lehigh County. They brought people in from the outside, I believe, is it Mars?
Ours is a program in the Lehigh Valley.
And I believe in the past they may have used treatment trends, I'm not sure.
I don't know
But,
about Mars is an outpatient
But that's
provider.
some of the things that they did. Lehigh County had a similar issue, and they brought people, an outside agency in, 40 hours a week for counseling, 40 hours a week for evaluations. Now, we're covered on evaluations with Lauren, but that's what they did. Warden Heidel said they brought in a county employee as the counselor.
But isn't that a lot more expensive going outside? Even if you hire on your own, then how does that affect the grants that they might get through DNA?
Yeah, that's one thing I wasn't sure, and that's why I hesitated in even bringing it up.
I can also tell you certification-wise, it's not a matter of getting a CO certified to be a counselor. I mean, they'd have, again, if you're going to do drug and alcohol treatment, okay, then they have to be able to meet all of those minimum educational guidelines. They, in terms of the appropriate degree has to be met, and then they have to go and become able to do certain other things like the ASAM criteria. You have to be certified to be able to administer continued stay reviews and all those kind of things. So it's just not a matter of like a simple kind of certification. So not that it's impossible, but it would have to look at each individual person and what their educational level is.
And it may not work, but I mean, we're at a point where we're over a year without services. I think you gotta be creative and look at every possible avenue that is available, because what we're doing now isn't
Right.
working.
And that's why, I think that's why we approached the commissioners after you at a meeting had suggested the potential of telehealth, that might be a better option, because really, that's the one thing that we see in our field is that there's whole facilities that are totally virtual, and they're not having a problem staffing, because the way the world has become, people spend a couple years at home doing this work, and it can be done that way. We're actually entering that whole realm right now. We have become, one of our current counselors has become certified in gambling counseling, and that is able to be done virtually. So we can advertise all over the state of Pennsylvania to take people for that.
Jamie, so is there any reason you can't modify your existing position and allow it to be remote work, and therefore expanding the potential pool, or giving someone another reason for doing the job who may not be locally based yet can still do it.
That's what we put in the proposal, is to be able to do it virtually, to full
Oh,
telehealth
okay.
position. But that, again, would be for a 35-to-1, one position is
Right.
35-to-1, so.
Mhm.
And again, that would be a start, but it certainly sounds like they even need more than 35-to-1 eventually, you know?
Well, we're at what, probably close to 100 people that need the service, or 75, I would think.
I would think. And I also have to, telehealth sounds good, but I don't have a lot of space up there to accommodate this. I mean, we have a small room where you guys usually work, and Prime Care took the room that you worked in the past when they came in back in last May.
That's on my list.
So there's not a whole lot of space available up there at the jail to do some of this stuff either.
And what I would tell you about that is one of the reasons in Monroe County, which we are the single county authority up there, but we don't have a counseling, we don't even have a pool of people to be able to service that.
Yeah.
Because we don't have staff up there. But, one of the things they're doing with their Attorney General dollars is currently they're looking into a modular unit specifically for that. They can't even really entertain doing a lot of more services because
Yeah.
they don't have anywhere to put anybody
Yeah.
to do the services. So, that's what they're taking their first chunk of money and looking at doing in Monroe, is putting something in that those services could go into a modular at their jail.
Jamie, could you get your job announcement over to our HR and we can see about posting it on our site also to give it a little bit additional boost? I
Absolutely.
mean, we can also push it under Indeed, but under the county,
Yeah,
you know, just get a little bit more exposure maybe, yeah.
Yeah, now, what we've gotten so far, we've had to weed out some of these people, because when you put a virtual position out, I have people applying from California, Florida, North Carolina, of which we're still asking one time a week to like be able to come into the office to have supervision and, you know. So, you know, that we have to figure out a way to filter that down a little bit, because,
Well, I'm assuming you're using the free version of Indeed, therefore,
Absolutely,
then
as a
you're not
nonprofit.
getting the filters, you're, right, yeah.
Couldn't you do the supervision virtually like they would do their classes?
potentially in the long haul, yeah, but at some point, I think, you know, we want to bring the person in. So, I mean, again, we're meeting tomorrow as a staff to kind of overall look at our concept of how much virtual, we do none now, but how much virtual we feel that's part of maybe solving some of our transportation issues in general, is, you know, being all the time offering that. If someone can't come, okay, let's get on Teams, you can, you know, if you can do that, we can have the session, so that we're not canceling sessions, because, you know, again, sessions is revenue, and finding every way to make every piece of that so that you can stay rolling is in the world we're in now.
So
No
in
other,
term,
no other areas that you can convert or utilize for,
We only have two multi-purpose rooms, two attorney visitation rooms. The multi-purpose rooms get used quite heavily, even the attorney rooms get used quite heavily for things other than attorney now. If it was for one-on-one counseling, of course they could use the attorney room, but I was thinking about when you did the group counseling, that sometimes would be tough. We'd have to probably modify our schedule. We've got a lot of Bible study, domestic violence, parenting classes, stuff like that coming in. And schedule's pretty full. So we have to make allotments, maybe move some people around, maybe shift some people to the evening. It would be a handful.
How about, can I ask, how would it be for virtual? Is there, you know, logistically, how would I think?
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe the judge can weigh on this. Sometimes it's difficult to get people to the polycoms and stuff because of what else is going on in the jail. It's not always convenient. Would I need an officer with them, and that would take another officer away from what they're normally doing? So it would create a little bit of a hardship for us.
How about, is daytime versus evening different for that?
Yeah, I mean, the daytime, we have a lot of things going on, like I said, with the
So
different
evenings
classes.
might actually be better.
Evenings might be better, yeah. You're dealing with,
See, I see evenings being a time where someone might be more attractive to take that position, you know, particularly somebody looking for a second job, you know, a mother who might, you know, now have like child to take care of during the day, but now her husband's home and could do it, you know, that's, so I mean, I think that, you know, we service people now in our office up till 8 o'clock at night, and it's our most highly utilized time, is from 4 to 8 in terms of people wanting their appointments.
To be honest, that would probably work better for us if it was an evening. There are more openings, more available rooms in the evening than there are during the day.
How long of a time would it be for the session? Is it an hour session?
It's 50
An hour?
minutes.
50 minutes? So if you were able to identify the key time for your programming, wherever the gap is, maybe there's a 2-hour gap there. That's the time you do it, that's what they advertise or look for somebody to do it. But I guess my next question is, what, in terms of next steps, so we're not gonna continue to recreate this conversation every month for the next 3 months. In terms of next steps, what are those next steps to get this resolved to look at virtual?
So I guess my next steps that I would need to know, there was an agreement that we could then, when we had met with the commissioners last, they said, don't go out trying to hire somebody yet, let's get the agreement, send an agreement in and get that approved. So once I know that that's gonna be approved, then we can, again, give the ad to you guys, look at what we just got on Indeed in the last week now, since we put this ad in, for virtual, and bring those folks in to see what times they could typically work, a schedule-wise, establish that schedule of what we're looking at, I think is really key to me, is like if we're looking at evenings, knowing that, so that I don't wanna bring somebody in, they say, yeah, I'll take a virtual job, but they were thinking it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 versus, I'd really be looking probably at, almost every night, Monday through Thursday then,
What equipment, Warden, would we need to do that doesn't exist there now?
Probably, would you do that via laptop?
Yes.
We need at least one laptop then.
So that you could have the laptop be projected potentially to a larger screen that's,
Oh, this for
All
group or
would be-
this for individual?
well, I mean, individual, obviously, the laptop or the
Yeah,
tablets or
that would be
whatever,
fine,
but
yeah.
if you're doing a group session with up to 35 people in it, or whatever your number is, you gotta assign a CO, and they gotta all be, you're not gonna go buy 35 laptops.
No, it would have to be based on classification, because we don't mix match with
Right.
security inmates,
So
AD
medium
security inmates,
or all
minimum
women.
security inmates, so it would have to be more than one session.
Right, but I mean, you still wanna get as many people in the session as you could
Right.
to get the biggest bang for your buck, so you would just need to project somehow onto a
Laptop
screen,
and a screen,
a
yeah.
television, there's other options. But I think if the commissioners are gonna approve this agreement, you gotta have that stuff worked out to make sure what you were suggesting to happen is possible with the technological needs that you have to have available.
And I think that flexibility of the pool of applicants would be a plus. You may, and I don't know how Jamie feels about this, but maybe 1 or 2 different people that could, somebody might want 3 hours, or somebody might want 4 hours, something like that. I think the flexibility of somebody just not coming in and saying, especially in the day, it's just this, I think that really may make that position a little bit more attractive.
And I can see in some spots too, if someone say the staff person couldn't do it, I've got other people who can hop on Teams and somebody could fill in and so it wouldn't miss those sessions, you know what I mean? To that degree, as far as meeting METs and being qualified, Carol Lee, our outpatient supervisor, she has done that and hopped on and came up there and saw a couple people in. Myself, I still have my CADC, Lynn still has her CADC, so it's a matter of, we could pop on and help to fill in, and so there wouldn't be cancellations or anything like that if somebody couldn't come to work for the day they were sick or whatever like that. But it's really just sending out, the Teams just goes out, just like your Zoom link or whatever, it would be your appointment, you get the link, that's how we did it through COVID, and then they just sign on to the link and we go from there. And I think in the beginning, it'll be a little squirrely till people get used to using it, but once they get used to using it.
Do we need any modification of the contract that we have? Proposed contract that we're entering into? Does language have to change in it?
The one we sent to the county in March was for telehealth. It just would be the date range would change on, obviously we usually go the calendar year, so it would just be from whenever we're gonna start, say July 1 to December 1 instead of January to December 1. I think, when I looked at it this morning, that was the only thing that's different.
So the first thing is, I guess the commissioners have to approve the contract, and then we have to set the parameters so that you're able to advertise properly.
far as schedule, what, you know,
Right.
what you're looking at is the schedule time that you want. And I mean, I think we start with that one full-time person and then, you know, as we can increase it, because the contract that we submitted is for that one, is for one person at this point, because that's what we've had.
Obviously, you know, you'd like to go in person, is the contract gonna be written in such a way, no, you propose it as telemed or whatever, but, you know, is it both in there?
No, it's in there as telehealth, because we have literally not had it as, not that we couldn't switch it, if we found that person that was willing to go
Right.
to the jail.
Well, that's what I'm trying to lay out here, I understand that there's difficulties right now, but obviously, well, I guess it's up to the commissioners in entering into a contract, but as far as with the prison, ideally, you'd like to have somebody there. And we don't wanna set it up that it's just gonna be telemed all the way through, and we're never gonna switch from that. I mean, I don't think this working from home and everything over, you're not getting, I think even in the nature of your business, that face-to-face interaction with people.
I don't disagree, I struggle with this, like, as far as, like, I think human services about human contact and being in the same room with people, but that is not when you go out and talk to people in the world what's happening. So, example, yesterday I talked to the director of MHDS and she was talking about someone in Luzerne County trying to seek services and they couldn't find an in-person provider. Every provider that they went to was only doing pure. And at one point Mars, as you mentioned Mars, they were still fully virtual, the last that I knew. They weren't having anybody in person. So some agencies have now, you know, I unfortunately won't be doing that, you know, I can tell you that. Number one, I'm in a 15-year lease, so I have a building that, you know, I've gotta pay for, so, you know, I'm not gonna be sitting in there by myself, you know, so that won't be happening with us, but I can tell you, like, we went to all of our staff when that last person that was out of jail left, that was their full time. And we went to all of our existing staff and offered it up, and basically we're told, I'll quit before I go, I don't wanna go to the jail. So I don't know if it's a combination of just people not wanting to work in that environment, and I do believe it takes a special person who likes to work, and Lauren, our case manager, she loves it, like, she loves that environment.
She's great.
But not everybody does, you know, so, you know, when I can't get somebody to work in the office, I don't really expect I'll get somebody to go to the jail.
A
Not that
lot of
we're
these
not gonna be-
people that apply, were they actually in the jail at all? Have they ever seen our jail? If you have applications coming in.
They wouldn't have seen your jail, no, how would they see
And
jail?
that's
We're
what I'm-
hoping they haven't seen.
No, but I'm
inside
just
the
saying,
jail.
like, when you go back to the job fair, look at how many people you got, because I think everybody thinks you're going to the prison, you're going to Gradeford. And I think when the job fair is gonna help out a little bit, that people are gonna see this.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important thing, like, to get connected with this job fair. And what did you get that time, was it 9 people?
8, I believe.
Eight people they got, cause they came there and saw our jail. They think they seen you, what is that prison movie on TV, they think that's what they're going into.
Shawshank.
Yeah, no, the new one, that's a series. And I think they all think it's like that there's 5 different kind of gangs in there and stuff, and I think people shy away from that. And when they get there, they can see that it is not a prison like they see on TV, and I think that's what shies people away a lot. So I think job fair is important, and I'm not, if we'd have to go to telemedicine, I'm fine with that, but I'm not crazy over it. I think the people do need interaction,
The other piece that we really looked at in our past folks that were at the jail, our counselors, is that we also don't believe that we need to be doing counseling with some of these people like for 6 months while they're sitting at the jail. That we better target people that are closer, and I know in the county jail, you don't always know when they're getting out. I get that whole piece, but try to target people closer to getting out, because what was happening when we look back on all these cases is that they were being seen in the beginning, they were working on treatment, but then all they wanted to do was start complaining about the jail to the counselor. Over and over, every session, just the CO, the this, the that, the food, the this. And then by the time they were ready to get out, our whole goal was so that they would have seamless service, so that they would continue to see that same person then in our office, you know, and transition out. But then none of them were engaging when they got out because they felt they were already in treatment long enough while they were at the jail. So then at their most highest risk time, when they're first getting out and adjusting, they weren't engaged in service any longer. So, looking at starting them not right the day they get in, if they're gonna have a pretty long time, but when it's getting closer to them, talking about that, coming back home and what it means to transition back, and deal again with being out in high-risk places and around people that use and all that kind of stuff would be more effective. So,
But I think-
And what about the ones that are coming in day one? Like, I mean, I know we had like this, what was it, a recidivism officer or whatever, is that no longer a position, or whatever happened to that? I think when we first came in here, that was supposed to be something that we were supposed to have a transition, that when people come in, if they were not supposed to be in there, that we're working with them people within the first 10 or 30 days to try to get them out. So if we're having people in and we're looking at the end when they get out, what about, are we forgetting about the ones that go in? I mean, are we neglecting the ones that are going in on day one?
We're working with probation right now with them.
And I
So
see
we're
it
not-
does, because the numbers are not there anymore.
Right, but no, but
Before
we-
there was 260, now we're at 130,
No,
so.
but even before this, when our numbers
Yeah.
were down,
Yeah.
probation is doing a full write-up on anybody that's newly entered into the prison, so that when they come to the preliminary hearing, we have a full report as part of their bail report as to what their needs and things are, and recommendations are placed in there for their release. So we get to see that when we set the bail conditions on who should come out and who shouldn't come out. And then we work with the warden and staff, especially with the mental health issues, but not so much with the drug and alcohol. But we set that up based upon the crime that was committed. But obviously, if there's, if we see a drug and alcohol problem in that, and it's not for a crime that they're looking at incarceration, we're modifying the bail to get them out and getting their counseling. So yeah, that's getting taken care of. You don't have a per se officer that's doing it, but, our system is between the DA's office and the sheriff's and public defender.
and the other piece is you have Lauren, the case manager, who's there, so when there are folks that are coming in that, at a higher intensity, that are seeking inpatient services, she will then do the assessment and do all the process to get them hooked up and go to rehab, as soon as they are able to get out and go there as well for the higher level of care. So these folks would be people who wouldn't be needing those higher levels of treatment based on what's called the ACE.
And like I said, something must be working, because when we first came on board here, there was 268 prisoners, and now we have 130, so
It's a com-
something's
Well,
working
it's a
here.
you can't just put on one thing, it's a combination
Yeah.
of everything, including the court system and moving through the cases a little bit better than
Yeah, I think so.
what we had before. And then even with those evaluations, you're talking early on, we do, and we work with the public defender on releases, in order to get into treatment, if they're gonna go to inpatient treatment, depending on the nature of the crime. That may not show in the bail report, so.
The only other thing that might change some of this stuff, just so you're aware, is that right now, at the federal level, they're looking at changing some things with medical assistance, so that people may not lose their medical assistance or may get turned back on even quicker. So then in those cases, again, when you have licensed treatment, licensed drug and alcohol treatment with a provider who's credentialed with MA, which we are, then some of that shifting of cost would shift over to medical assistance to pay for services for those people who would either keep their medical assistance or get turned on while they're still there. So, that has already happened in some states. It's also something that would be very positive with this medication-assisted treatment, because if anybody knows anything about medication-assisted treatment, it's very expensive. That those costs would be shifted there as well, and that's a big driver in that happening. So, that's all working in the works in the federal level at this point.
To the district attorney's point, though, I think there's huge value in still having the in-person counseling option. In lieu of that, something is better than nothing to do the telehealth piece. I wouldn't wanna see the recruitment stop for the in-house, because if we get one person to do it virtually, that's not gonna be enough. You may need multiple people with multiple types of offerings, in-person, individual, telehealth-wise. So I would suggest that the wording of that contract includes both of those options to have all of our bases covered.
I can
Yeah, like, more like an either or, like, it's a contract, obviously, you put in telehealth, then at a point in time, we start asking for it, you say, well, the contract doesn't provide for it. Or the opposite, you know, we don't, and we're not, I don't think the county has ever done it that way with you or had disagreements over the contract like that. But having both in there that it contemplates it, I think that puts us in a better position that, you know, as an either or, we're contemplating, you know, acknowledging the desire to have, you know, full-time in-person type of, position, or in the alternative, and because of staffing, the telemed.
And I mean, I see there's potential if someone may start working for us telehealth and like really enjoy the population and might want to do that, you know, if you really get somebody who's been a therapist and has worked with people in person, you know, so.
And is there something like that, there's someone, cause I agree with him, like, we're sitting here all the time stalled, you know, whatever we're doing here. And it's like, is it any option for a person after 10 visits or 15 visits, that there has to be an in-house visit? You know what I mean? Can that be in there, that we're not just going completely telemedicine, and after treatment for somebody or whoever they're doing with 5 people or 5, and I don't know how you're gonna do it, are you gonna do it with groups? And then do they come in every 10th session that it's in-house? You know, like, what do you do to get it, that it doesn't turn into just telemedicine all the time? Cause then,
Well, I don't think.
I mean, that's up to you, like, how you can do this, but I still think people need interaction, no matter what the stats say. Somebody has to come,
Listen, I don't disagree with you
Yeah.
whatsoever, like I said,
But
I was coming back from COVID when everybody else was still purely, you know, I was telling myself, sorry, we need to come back, these people you need to see somebody so that you can see their body language or what's happening with them over a screen looks much more different. You don't know who's in the background listening when you're doing that. Can somebody really be open and honest because there's wife sitting at the kitchen table right next to you and you really can't see them, so are they gonna tell you the truth whether they're drinking or not using? You know, all those kind of factors all happen in telehealth. You know, if there's an officer in the room, is the person gonna really talk about some deep-seated thing that's happening in their life? You don't know, you know, but at this point, like I said, I think to me, this is like where we need to start, not necessarily where we need to finish, and hopefully we can adapt it as we move forward. And
I don't think you could get that detailed in the job, in that part of the contract and what they're gonna provide, that it's so many times, in, you know, telemed and then has to be in person. I don't think you can get that way. Lorna already acknowledges that face-to-face is better. She knows that, that's what we want. Well, I just where I want the contract contemplates
Yeah, has both
either
of-
or, that in the event that you know, we're not all here, she's not there, that somebody's not using the contract to say, oh, it's only telemed. I don't want a contract that just says, that's what we're providing, that's all we,
I get it.
and then they fall back on that, well, we don't have to send somebody up there, I don't wanna, and we've never had a relationship like that, so I'm not that concerned, but I just like it in the contract.
Yep. I
So if we
do
could get that in the contract that way, then it'll be good.
I would suggest too, I mean, I think there's a difference between providing a service and providing a quality service. So when you're thinking about supervision of these people, it may be beneficial to put in your process that somebody who supervises this individual tunes in to watch them do the group, right, on a
We do that. We do that now
irregular
with our-
basis,
yeah,
just
on
so
the
that's
digital.
built in there, because, you know, yeah, we're gonna interview them, but we're not sitting in those groups to know if what they're doing is working, their delivery, their interaction, that kind of stuff. And, you know, I don't know if all of these people that are gonna be in a group, do they all have a one-on-one kind of initial meeting to be introduced to this individual, to ask some of those questions, you know, build a bio, whatever, that they can incorporate into the delivery of their service, that,
Yeah.
you know, that
So the
may
way
be
it works
helpful.
is that in order to be in any of our groups, in treatment, the way our policy is written is you have to first be established with a primary counselor before you can be eligible to go to any group.
Okay.
Can I just say one thing, based on 37 years of being on the inside? I think inmates are more apt to go to a group than they are to a just basing that on what I've saw at Hidden Carbon, what I've seen in Luzerne, we got more inmates going when there's somebody actually at the jail and when it's on a TV screen or when it's in front of a laptop.
So can I propose maybe part of the contract, say that the groups would be in person and individuals telehealth?
Yeah, and would you have a group meeting then? You'd still have individual, but
I
you would
think
have.
I can get somebody up there to do a group, you probably wouldn't be the same person doing the individual and the group,
Okay.
but I think I could get somebody
You
to
could write
go there
something
to
like
do a group.
And you have to understand, the regulation for group is 10, no more than 10 in a group. We actually have a waiver to do 12, so we can do up to 12 people in a group, but no more than that, so just,
For
so you
CCBH.
understand.
That's CCBH,
Pardon me?
for CCBH.
Well, for really our license, our DDAP license, so.
Which would only be one block at a time anyway in a group.
But you had mentioned like 35 computers and different, it wouldn't be like that per group. Safety reasons for our staff too,
Yeah, you cover the amount
Yeah.
that you can, but I wouldn't wanna see you write a contract that says we will all the time do it this way for groups and this way for individual. I think you
option
have to have the
both, right.
flexibility to
Right.
do either or both, because something is better than nothing.
Right, but I think I could probably get somebody there to do a group in person, which I think would make more, I think, when you're on, even for meetings, you don't participate the same way you do if you're in a room, you don't. But if you're in a therapy group and there's 10 squares up there, they're not interacting the same way they would if John says something and Susie's sitting right here and she's like, John, you're full of, you know what, it's not gonna, it doesn't happen that way on Zoom. So, I would try to get somebody, as a commitment that I'll really try to do that and get somebody up there to at least do the group.
And I think the district attorney and I can work with you, Warden, and the deputy warden in our prison work group on talking about the equipment, the timeframe, areas that kind of stuff. Maybe we can put that and add it to our agenda, so if there's roadblocks that come up, we can figure out how to remove them.
So can I ask, like, it would be a time frame that you could get me something of like what you would like the schedule to be for those individuals, for the individual sessions? Obviously, if I was doing a group, I'd be sending somebody up during a day to do a group in person, but, what time frames you think would work the best for me to put it in and add?
And is this gonna be open to full-time and part-time, so you have the option to, cause you were telling like maybe people wanna work after hours, not that we're just held, and like, to me, I think we should advertise for 2 positions and hopefully we get 1, or maybe 2 part-time, you know what I mean, to get something rolling.
We had just recently
keep
put
the
in a
op-
part-time and we got a hit for a part-time, we just hired a part-time in our office for a part-time person. In fact, somebody who used to be at the jail, Lita Thompson, is coming to work part-time for me in the office, doing some individual sessions for people.
I'll defer to you, Warden, what you think the timeframes, we can sit down and talk about it if we need to.
Yeah,
You know your programming, and what your needs are.
yeah, like I said, I don't remember the schedule exactly off the top of my head, I have to look at our schedule, see what we've opened. You're talking, if I heard you correctly, groups in the afternoon and the individuals.
Yeah, during the daytime hours, we would be anywhere from our
Yeah.
like 9 to 5 per people,
And I think just thinking off the top of my head, that sounds doable. If we could do the groups in the afternoon and the individual stuff at night, whether that be with your telepsych or, telecounseling or in-person counseling.
Part of that equipment discussion now becomes the critical piece for those tablets, and having the ability for, whether it's Teams or whatever's gonna be used, because that's the primary tool that we're gonna use for the delivery of that service.
Teams is the platform that we use.
So, we have to work with GTL, and I know they weren't being responsive and
I
that
have
kind
an
of stuff,
update
so.
from them today.
Do you wanna add, Paul?
I was just gonna ask a question, and I'm gonna try to stay in my lane. Now, I know you mentioned Luzerne County, is there any reason you would wanna consider doing some kind of combined day reporting? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about, where they wind up My understanding is in Luzerne County, an individual will be sentenced, I'm just gonna use the example, 6 months of jail. After 3 months, they're allowed to be released, but they're doing a day reporting where they're going to drug and alcohol office for treatment, and then making sure that they're complying with the treatment. It does two things. It reduces the population at the jail. For individuals that are not, again, violent offenders, someone that's concerned for the community, but also now you don't have the concern of these individuals that don't wanna work at the jail. They're actually working at drug and alcohol, and they're meeting at drug and alcohol. I'm just throwing it out there. It's something that they mentioned to me, and if you're familiar with Luzerne.
A little bit, I know they do have a day reporting center, but I think they work that with their probation and parole department, if I'm not mistaken.
That's actually the GEO program.
Right.
So Wayne, you were with me years ago, we went and visited that. I don't know, there's some other, I don't think anybody else from, you along on that trip? So it's basically a whole center where they come and they have, job, like stuff where they go on computers and learn and look for jobs, and they have their counseling there. Everything happens in one kind of thing, so. And they go there every day, and urines and everything are done there on site.
Well, we don't have a center to do that. Transportation is a barrier. Captive audience, I mean, if they don't show up, I guess they get violated, but.
So the way, and again, you're right, I think it's much more advanced than I think that you could do here, because it is GEO. But what I was suggesting is possibly doing something where you could have a sentence that's imposed that again allows them to do, they're out of jail at a certain, they're given the ability as part of the sentence to be released on this program where they're doing the day reporting, a regular reporting daily to drug and alcohol, and maybe it's not also involving employment, but that could be something down the line. I'm just throwing it out there just because when I saw the information on it, it seemed like a good program. I kind of focused on a reentry as well, but it's just extra information. Again, it's called GEO, you can look at it yourselves. But the only other thing I was gonna say is to echo what my clients would relay. They definitely would, I'm sure, be much better at in-person counseling than the telehealth. Obviously, something is better than nothing, but the in-person would be better, so.
And the day reporting is okay, but you're understaffed.
Hmm?
The day reporting would be
Well,
okay,
day
but
reporting,
you-
I do have probably everything in our, in-house that you would have a day reporting, because I have a full case management unit too.
oh, you have people that could do
I
that.
have people who do those other focuses as well, so that's the department that Lauren that's at the jails in,
Okay.
and I have in-house people, I have somebody who goes to drug court that does case management, you know, so I do have those folks that handle those other things as well, so.
That requires a whole new evaluation of a whole new program that's more
Yeah.
advanced. It has to be in a sentencing order, you have to be with the sheriff in order to provide transportation for it. There's in and out stuff that, you know, we eliminated drugs in the prison when we were in COVID, because nobody was going out on work release and nobody was going on weekend sentences. Once all those came back, then we started seeing an uptick, and that we have to be constantly vigilant on. Now we're creating another risk of that, but I think it's something that has to be talked to with the bench. You know, on what they wanna do and their ability to set all that up. I mean, that's obviously something that's nice to look at, but even with the schooling and stuff like that, but we don't have those types of issues. We don't have that sort of demographic of prisoner.
I just throw it out there as down the line to consider as a morphed version.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? So you guys are working on a contract.
Yep, I have
He's
everything.
gonna, and the board's gonna give you some little
He's gonna give me a
parameters there for
schedule
time.
so that I can put a more specific ad
Okay.
that would encompass that.
And
Like I
we're
said,
able to
the
do
ones
it
I
from
already
our end.
have, I'm gonna maybe bring those folks in just to get their interest.
And what,
job
like, if you have a group session, do you need a monitor or anything for that? I mean,
What do you
like
mean,
when you're coming, are you presenting on a screen to the group, or are you just talking to them?
No, we're talking.
There's no slides or nothing that you have to use for
We're
that?
not showing movies, we're not doing any kind of stuff like that, we're therapy, group therapy, so it's just talking.
When you revise it, you'll send the job description to post for the county website, and we can also get it to HR to put for the job fair.
And do we have a date for that job fair?
I think the board was looking.
I'll get you a date, we're gonna pick a weekend in July, it'll be a Saturday in July. I think we're shooting for the last weekend in July, but I'll let you know for sure.
sending the new revisions through Ellie. So that's why I sent the last agreement. Yeah? Okay. Got it.
Okay, thank you for coming, you're welcome to stay if you wanna stay.
Take a little break before our meeting with Paula.
Okay, any other guests? Alright, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes for the meeting held on May 17th, 2023.
Move for the approval.
Motion made by
Second.
Commissioner Osmann, second by Commissioner Garner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We had no executive sessions that were held. Reports of committees, maintenance report.
K&D was in to repair the rationale oven in the kitchen. Sills was in to repair, the FEMA block washing machine. Keystone was in for issue with the intercom system. A&W was in to jet out a sewer line. I submitted the monthly color report to DEP. I've given information to Nagua from Carbon Engineering, and she has started the feasibility study. Train was in for their quarterly PM of the rooftop units. And one of the water heaters, the tank is ruptured, so it's basically leaking. I've been trying to get quotes. I have two quotes. I have one from Andrews and one from A&W. I sent a letter in as well stating that I've called Sheehan's numerous times and the phone just rings. I've tried Rick's Plumbing, and it's all been a busy signal every time I call. Goldberg Plumbing, I left a message, they never got back to me. And Jim Thorpe Plumbing, I was told was out of business. So that's where we are at with that. I asked if there was someone else that the county recommended we get a quote from, and then they just said come up with the letter and the reasoning. So.
Any questions for Ronnie?
So is one of those quotes being submitted for
For like to be approved, like it looks like the,
Well, I was
A&W
told
or the
because of the
A&W.
price, I had to get quotes, and
Yeah.
that's just basically where we were at the moment, so.
so we just need to get it on the agenda for,
yeah,
Yeah.
if that's the one, send it down and.
Unless anybody has any objection to that being the one that's.
No, I'll make a motion to recommend to the commissioners for the,
Motion
for the
made,
agreement to
recommend
A&W.
that one.
Yeah.
Second by Commissioner Lukasevich, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Anything else, Rod? Alright, work release report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Submitted is the monthly work release report. There were a total of 6 individuals on the program, with 4 being currently working. Also submitted are the employers and monthly revenues. And if there's any questions on those, certainly I could answer those. And additionally, there was some interest in the community work program. If that's something that the board would like to entertain restarting, certainly you could let me know, and I'll make sure we have inmates available for the program. And it would follow the same guidelines that we had in the past, it'd be nonviolent inmates, court-approved for work release. So those individuals don't have employment, they'd be eligible for that program. And that was provided to the municipalities.
We need to take an official action on that. And that's not offered right now, right, Frank?
Correct, it's been on hiatus probably for a few years.
Judge, would that change anything in your sentencing order to require that?
I don't think so.
And they don't need to be supervised then, or do they?
There was correctional officer supervision, the
Okay.
sheriff department was in touch with the wardens, so if there would be additional supervision, that'd be great as well. In the past, transportation, that would have to be worked out as well. And municipalities, we've had Palmer and Nescahoning Borough, the Heighton Borough, Kidder Township, a lot of the municipalities were taking part in that program. So, we can work out the details, whatever need to be done, we can get that program up and running, if it's something that we want to pursue.
Should we let, I don't think we need an official motion on that, let's let, our work release director check into all that, get the better details, work with the sheriff's department and with the warden, make sure everybody's all on board and give a recommendation on how it's gonna work, and then subject to our approval at that
I
point.
think you spoke to Matt about it, didn't you?
I did, I spoke with, Matt Probation, And of course, one of the details was, well, do we pay the inmates? We could pay them an hourly rate, daily rate. We could give them time off their jail sentence, good time, which becomes a mathematical, you need a slide rule to figure this out. Or, of course, adding those hours towards their community service, which adult probation was on board with that. That would be a very helpful solution to those that can't get community service hours. They did 10 hours community service, that would come off their requirement, hopefully avoid some of our offenders coming back to jail. So if they have 100 hours, 10-hour days, they could knock out 100 hours of community service, which is probably a little bit on the high end. But to get some of this community service done, yeah, that could be very valuable.
I think just put a plan together, I guess, see
Yeah.
how many would fit into the program.
Yep.
And I think just go from there. Sounds good.
This is similar to the program we ran years ago when I was a warden, it's just now with the sheriff getting involved, but I think all the parameters are basically the same, aren't they, Frank?
Yeah, yeah, basically all I need is for the prison board to say, Frank, go ahead, get it going, and we'll get it going. And of course, the supervision, whether it's sheriff, deputies, correctional officers, or both.
Alright, so we'll look forward to that, I guess, at the next meeting, that way we wanna do it? Okay. We'll put that, it just shows up as unfinished business at our next meeting, or old business. Alright, plan of action committee.
Plan of Action Committee met on the 31st of May, and here's the following updates. Tablet use and policy. At the time of the meeting, we were waiting to hear from GTL. Warren, you indicated that they did get in touch?
Yeah, I spoke to Jim Bradley from Viapathic GTL. He needed some information from me about our housing units, current population capacity. I passed that all along to him. Just one note in here, he mentioned to me, I will make sure all the free stuff is included, the request, the grievances, the books, the educational law library, religious content, FRIA, all the kind of stuff we were looking for to be included on the tablet are gonna be included. So I tried to get a hold of him yesterday, he didn't get back to me to see if he had a more recent update, but that's where we stand right now with the tablets.
So when we met, the question came up, did the board actually approve the use of these tablets or not? That was unclear.
No,
There was no vote.
So, before they move forward, that decision has to be made.
well, I think we have to have more information, I think we had questions with some of the other stuff yet, I mean, there's a lot that has to be answered, I think, before we enter into a contract. I mean, that's my opinion of it, I think there's good points of it, but what are we getting into? You know, we're talking about this telemedicine, is it going there, is it gonna help that? You know, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think it's just from the public, you hear, and I might be able to see it, but the public's gonna say, are they good ideas? Is it good? Yeah, they gave us a presentation, but what is the advantage to the person and to the county? That's what I said, I mean, we have a lot of salespeople come in here and try to sell us stuff. In the last year, we probably spent $500,000 on things we shouldn't have, that should've went towards people's salaries. And I'm not gonna stick money out if this is not a viable thing. I mean, and I said, you go to the public, we're worrying about this broadband, and there's people within the county that don't have broadband, I understand that. And I can see the value of this, but I need more information from that person, and I think, there are questions about who's gonna monitor this. Are we gonna have to hire another officer to take care of this? There's a lot of money that gotta go behind this before you say yes.
Okay, I just speak from experience. Monitoring was done by staff. I did some monitoring when I worked as a captain on the night shift up at Ozark. Monitoring, for me, is probably gonna be the toughest thing, because having people to do it. But it stops visitation in the jail, it stops people, you know. Again, we talk about maybe the telepsych, the telemed, stuff like that can be done on the tablets, the visiting that can be done on the tablets. Maybe Mr. Levy in his office can call on the tablet and speak to an inmate. So it would stop a lot of movement. It might stop some unnecessary movement that the sheriff has to take inmates out for as well. So there's a lot of positives to this. And I speak because I've seen it work in action. I know it does work. You want control over the apps, and I understand that, but at Luzerne, they didn't have a great selection of apps. Yeah, they had a music app, yeah, they had a movie app, but those things help officers. They help keep the population busy. They help keep the population from doing things that they shouldn't do. They are a tool for the officers, and they also are a disciplinary tool. You can suspend somebody's privileges. You can take tablets away from the unit if the unit is acting up. There's a lot of things you can do with the tablets, both for the inmates and against the inmates. Like I said, you want to use them as a tool to take something away.
With the staffing that you have, would you be able to provide staffing for it, or do you need to hire additional officers?
I think what we did at Luzerne and what we would probably do at Carbon, when sergeants, lieutenants had some downtime, they would monitor the tablets. They would watch the phone calls. That's how we did it up there. I wish we had more time to do it. It was feasible.
It would be no different than how we're monitoring our phone calls now.
Exactly.
When we're suspicious over something, we go back and we listen to the phone calls. So they have a feel on who's doing what up there, the rumors spread around, and we go back and we look through everything that we have. That's how we catch them. I don't think you're gonna have live monitoring at that time, or that you monitor everybody's
No.
on a daily basis. I think that's not conceivable. What do you need, Rocky? What do you want this guy from GTL to come back in and?
Well,
I mean, we have a policy, and I'm not saying that we're at the point where you're, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I know we have the policy in effect, we got from this end that they say they could do it, I think we just have to finalize or hear their pitch on what apps you want on and what you think you can do. Am I correct with that, or?
Well, and that's what I think it is, when he came here and showed this all in the monitor, and everything's fine, and nothing can come through it, and there's a picture on there with a woman ready to take her top off.
Right.
You know, I need to have that ensured that somebody's watching this. I don't need 100 coming in like that. And if this is supposed to be a system that's helping, then monitor it, then have somebody monitor it. Having it say, yeah, we'll check it every 3 days is not good for me. I mean, this is something that you have to take serious, and I see the point that it's gonna help. But not monitoring it is not gonna help. It's not gonna help the situation. All you gotta do is slip up one time, and that's it. And it might even be a slip up one time when you're watching, but imagine how many slip ups come up when you don't watch it. And that's my point. And I said, I see the value of it, I see the education part of it, it's gonna help people, it's gonna maybe help with recidivism, and maybe with drug abuse or whatever, but it has to be, for me, it has to be monitored. You know, that, and how do you do that?
I'm not a tablet expert, but I don't think any jail monitors the 16 hours or 12 hours, 15 hours that the tablets are in use. I don't think anybody can devote staff just to monitoring the tablets.
But that's what I said, you said to me they'll monitor when they have time.
Yeah, that,
What happens if time isn't for 5 days?
I know that could be,
That's
could be a
my issue,
possibility.
that's my issue with the thing. If somebody was monitored, I wouldn't have no problem with it right now. It's just, what do we do with this? Is there gonna be a position that's added that's gonna be monitoring this periodically? I mean, not every 3 days, somebody has to do it every day if you're doing it at 5 to 7 o'clock at night, or what are you doing? Or what are your times gonna be? There's no schedule on how you're gonna monitor this. It could come in here and it might be today and nobody will look at it till next Sunday.
I don't think you should set a time.
Well,
Don't
that,
want a set time, it should be random to begin with.
no, but it shouldn't, it should be on a periodic
Well,
period,
that's
not
what I'm
every
saying,
2
you can't
weeks.
set a time.
When you can, when we don't have it in the policy, but you can set up, I think your biggest concern is what you saw on there with the visitations.
Well, and it's some things maybe that I didn't see, that maybe somebody monitoring it and I'm not saying every day like Wayne said, yeah, you don't wanna make a pattern, but you should check it once in a while, not every 4 days.
No, I understand what you're
You know.
saying, but I think there's some medium in between having one guy there with every tablet that we have, watching all these screens like Big Brother, waiting for somebody and then grabbing it. You're not gonna have that. More often than not, to get what happened is just like our phone calls, you get, it gets around the prison, somebody did something, just like that girl that exposed herself. That gets around. My girlfriend did this. It gets to somebody else. It gets to a guard. Next thing you know, we go back. We catch it. You don't catch it in live time, but you end up catching it. But if they have there are people on there, but we could limit the time periods when the visitations are taking place and pay more attuned to that, cause that's where the discussions come up over things that they want them to do on the outside, over those things, and we can make sure that those are monitored a lot more closely than the music or the TV apps that aren't gonna really create much of an issue, or the counseling times or whatever that is. So it's just, when we set the times for the visitation that you have over that you're gonna need to have somebody monitoring.
And what I can do, because night shift is slow compared to day shift and middle shift, can have our night shift sergeants do some of the monitoring.
And go back
Yeah.
for that day.
Yeah.
Alright, so what do you need, you want that guy to come back in, or what do we need to move forward?
I think I just need to see a plan, what we're doing here. I mean, I
Okay.
think he gave us but what kind of a plan is the warden gonna put together, or the staff, or everybody here, to try to make it work? I don't think there's no reason why it can't work. It's just, I don't need something thrown in here and then it sits there for 3 weeks and nobody does anything with it. You know, that's what I need, and I think even like Mark's not here, and he brought that up before, if there's areas where they're gonna be doing this, is this where, you know, if it's, I don't know what kind of situations they're going in, visitation rights, is that something that's in another room, or is that gonna be in their cell? You know, like, what's happening with this?
That's how,
I think,
if it's set up like we had in Luzerne, there's docking stations on the walls. And the inmate will be at that docking station doing the visiting. He can't be doing the visiting in his cell because you can't monitor him there. From our staff's point, monitoring the inmate who's making the call. The stuff we see that we shouldn't see isn't coming from the inmates, it's coming from the other side.
right, yeah.
But yeah, they're on docking stations on, last time I was familiar with them, when I was at Luzerne, that's how we operated them from, each block had a couple different docking stations where the phone calls were made, the video visits were made.
Jim, and I courtesy copied you this morning. I sent out correspondence to all employees at the prison,
Yeah.
Plus the
I did
bargaining
see.
unit, to get their input, you know, are they for it, against it, pros and cons and stuff like that? Because they're the folks who are gonna have to do it, so once I hear back from them, I'll give them, a month to reply.
And the only thing I wish they had some experience in it. I'm lucky
Right.
because I did.
I know.
They don't know.
Right.
A lot of them don't know.
Right.
But they hear about the towers. They
Right.
haven't seen an operation yet.
So I don't know what to tell you, Mike, it's like I said, I like the idea, I think we have to start a little bit slow and then branch off of that, you know, I don't, and like he's talking about docking stations, yeah, he talked about docking stations, but what are we gonna do, are we gonna have 5 of them? You know, what's the plan? Are all 40 of them gonna be someplace else, I don't know.
When he
You know,
emailed me,
and that's all I need that, and I said, I see the value of it, where it can help. I mean, with mental health or drug and alcohol, it can do wonders in the prison, but I just don't wanna get it out of hand and then it's unmonitored. And I said, and doesn't matter how much you monitor it, there's probably something gonna happen somewhere there's something's gonna be, you never know, cause
We said that we said this from day one, that this increases the ability to commit criminal acts, there's no ifs, ands,
Yeah,
or buts about that.
and it-
It just creates another tool, however, even our acknowledging that, the law enforcement standpoint of it, sees the benefit of having it in terms of controlling issues at the prison, in terms of, having visitation without people coming into the prison, eliminating the influx of people to the prison, there's just more benefits that, and the communication, the ability to communicate with the public defender's office and DA's office outweighs the stuff that, they'll still find a way to commit crimes, we're just giving them an easier tool, but if we monitor it, we could, we'll still get more, we'll create work for ourselves.
And I think it's just like one of the things, if you start off a little bit slow with this, and you just got done saying nobody knows anything about it, none of the guards or anything, that lets them get into it, and then maybe instead of having 50 tablets, we start off with 15 and work up to 50 within a year. You know what I mean? That's where my point is, I think people have to be trained on how to use it, because if you throw there, it's just gonna, to me, it's gonna be chaos. So, and like I said, I see the value, but I think, how do we implement it without not throwing too much at the wall?
I'll send you down the draft policy that I
We gave it to everybody.
Yeah, it was.
We all
it
reviewed
was-
it,
Right, that
and we
might
made
have been one of
changes
our-
to it. But I think we gotta clarify, I think just the parameters of what's, that's the policy. We may need to add when the visitations are gonna take, how you're gonna implement it. You have a policy for the prisoners,
Yeah.
but that's how you're gonna implement it, like the number of
Yeah.
docking stations, number of tablets we're getting, when you propose to have visitations, how you propose to have it monitored. I think they're the questions that Rocky needs to answer. All right,
So, that was the first item.
okay.
The implementation plan continues to be updated. We're still awaiting delivery on the ion scanner. I'm not sure where the status of combining the live scan mail clerk position was. When that ion scanner comes in,
That was our plan, at the live scan and mail clerk position together when the ion scanner comes in. And I do have just an update on the ion scanner, I know that's also a new business, but, talked to Chris Patterson from, Chris Patterson Access Control System. We had a delivery date of tomorrow for the ion scanner. Of course, there was a bump in the road. I asked for the update. What he told me was that the ion scanner was delayed. He didn't know why the delay was, but it wouldn't be delivered tomorrow. I reached out to him yesterday as well, but I didn't get anything back from him. Trying to find his exact answer here. But yeah, he just, maybe I didn't bring that email with me. Yeah. He just said the last week, it's gonna take some more time. He didn't understand why the delay was. I'm sorry, I don't have that email with me, but yeah. I don't know why it was delayed. Tried to find out, didn't tell me.
so we're waiting for that to come in, the position.
On a position, how are we approaching this with, in terms of the commissioners? I think the overall sense I got from the board here, that we were gonna look to combine the positions. Do you want us to draw up, prepare a new job description and get it over to HR? Are we moving forward that way, or are you against creating a position, or how do you want us to handle this?
I would, do a job description combining the two.
It's already done.
Oh, is it?
I have it done yet.
Okay.
Should we get that to HR and then,
Go from there.
okay.
Camera system, JCI, is supposed to be there tomorrow to start figuring out their implementation plan for the cameras. Polycom, no new systems at this time, gonna utilize what's there. Prison tabletop, that's kind of on hold. There's next steps that were identified from the tabletop exercise. I'm sure the warden will touch on it, the DOC inspection. We'd already talked about drug and alcohol. We were able to identify an intern who's in the district attorney's office now, but will rotate through other offices. Also will be assigned to the prison and will help warden with your post orders. That will be
Yeah.
his project, so you can get that hopefully
Yes,
finalized.
that and our general orders, yeah.
Yep, so, and I talked to him about that. He knew there was gonna be a project. I think he should have no problem getting that done. The vacant secretary position, was that posted?
It's not vacant yet, because she's gonna be the one that moves into the mail clerk ion scanner.
Okay. Focus placed on revising the policies and procedures we discussed. Key control is being worked on. PRIA continues to be rolled out. We talked about training for external departments outside the prison. Sergeant Candy put together a memo that came out this week. Those trainings will be held at 44 Susquehanna, so hopefully that
Now,
will.
can you explain that more, Warden? What the heck is all that all about? What kind of training do these outside agencies? Who is supposed to be, or you think should be attending these trainings?
Anybody who comes into the jail with inmate contact, whether it be public defenders, probation, parole, sheriff's deputies, vendors that come in. Sergeant Candy has been grabbing our vendors as they come through. and making sure they have pre-training. It takes 20 minutes to half an hour. It's a short training, but you have to have it to be PREA compliant. Anybody who has any kind of contact with inmates has to have the training, so we're PREA compliant.
I got a
Who is, presenting these, training sessions?
Sergeant Candy is our trained PREA, she's our PREA coordinator. We've gone through, myself and Sergeant and Deputy Warden George went through months of weekly PREA training with, hold on a second, drawing a blank here. But we did our PREA training online. Drawing a blank on who we had it with, but Sergeant Candy is the coordinator. Like I said, she does all of our in-house training. She's done some training with your staff already, hasn't she, Sheriff? Yeah.
My staff
And
as
your
well.
staff, yeah. But it's all necessary for anybody who has any kind of type of contact with inmates.
What was it, Ellie?
Why did our office receive a notice for training?
I don't know, it's
Yeah, I
for
think-
anybody with inmate contact. I don't know why she sent you one.
When you go up there and eat.
Why, we don't understand
I
why we
haven't actually
received
been up
one,
in,
and
I
I'm
don't
just
think I ate
concerned.
the new meals
I
yet,
don't
so
know
I
why she said
haven't
it,
been
I'll
out.
talk to her.
I know I
I'm just
got it, I'm
concerned
thinking
that
like, I
she's
guess I
sent
should
it
be
to
going through the program too.
purchasing office, the treasurer's office.
No, she did not.
You know,
She sent anybody with inmate contact, and maybe she did that because prison board used to meet at the jail.
okay,
That's the only explanation I can give you.
Okay,
okay.
yeah. And one of these times we should meet at the jail and have some food, see what it tastes like.
So do we, Warden, I think we discussed you coming up with a list of departments that needed to attend the training, communicating with them so they knew they had to send their people to those sessions so that,
Yeah.
so that everybody could be compliant.
Yeah, and I just found out, I think it was late last week, that a training seminar has to be sent to HR as well, so we did inform everybody that that has to be filled out as well.
Post orders, again, that's the intern project. The inmate handbooks were developed. Prime Care continues to be working well. I know there's a meeting that was scheduled with Prime Care, drug and alcohol, and I'm not sure who else on the MAT program. The work group discussed, that being a good program is very expensive, but there is gonna be a significant staffing issue trying to get these people to that treatment, should that be utilized, unless that treatment is brought to the prison. So that's something that's gonna need to be discussed and figured out before anybody enters into that programming. Some of the food feedback was that the food service provider seems to be slacking.
That's what, I mean, I'm not with that, but I see like a little bit of a difference, but in the bills. And I don't know what's going on there, so I said, that's one of our suggestions, maybe we should,
Time for a meeting,
yeah,
yeah, that's what we
yeah,
discussed.
I think that's, I've seen that.
Okay, the Aramac, the bosses were in today to review the kitchen as well.
Yeah. And it usually goes good for 6 months to a year, and then they start pulling
And
stuff.
that seems to
So
be
now
what's
it's
happening
time
now.
to, yeah.
Live scan training is ongoing. That was put out to all the chiefs in Tuesday's meeting to contact the prison to get the officers trained if they need to do that. Report writing was still on the to-do list. Job fair scheduled for July at some point. Continues to be a need for the guard shack. That's still on that list. I was informed this week that cones were stolen in that area up at the top of the road there. And they've noticed some additional people coming in and parking in that area, which was resolved and now apparently it's another issue. Commissioner Nostan suggested putting up posts with a chain on, right?
Keep them out.
To keep them out,
Get
so
some barriers.
we're gonna look at that. Anybody have an update on the pump issue before it comes up again?
Haven't heard anything.
So when I talked to Rodney, he was waiting to get authorization to have somebody provide an opinion, a second opinion, and review the overall system. He had identified somebody that was willing to do that, and and I think the board needed to give approval for that to occur.
And who you having come in?
I had, Mark Bonner, he's with Van Cleef Engineering, they're the, engineers that do the water authority for Bowmanstown. And he came up one day and he spent like an hour with me, and he said, you know, there were different things that he would check in, like he would call, like, if they would do it, they would get a hold of the company, they could find the specs on the motors, because like when he was up there, how the motors seem to like short cycle just because they only come on when there's a demand, and he says most motors don't come on for 15, 20 seconds shut off, and then go back and forth, and that's what a lot of these are doing. I mean, currently, the 3 pumps seem to be working good at the moment. He did reach back out to me, that his company would be willing to come in and do like a do not exceed for say 2,500, and they could go in further.
We need a written proposal,
Yeah.
to act on,
You know, it sounds more like it's not the pump then, it sounds, like a control unit that's causing it to come,
Well, they only come on when there's a demand.
yeah.
So if there's
understand.
no, like when there's no demand for the water, you know, like if you come up, you can watch and you'll see like what the water pressure is. And when the water pressure starts to drop, a pump will come on. But sometimes if there's not a lot of demand, that pump comes on, meets the water pressure, and then shuts off. So you, like I said, there's times when a pump might run for a minute straight. There's other times when a pump runs for, 15, 20 seconds.
It's short cycling then
Right.
causing a problem.
Because it's, because it meets the demand. Where he said like the last, one of the places that they did, they have like a third pump that circulates. So that way these pumps never run such short times, but that's a design issue to me,
Well, and that's what I think it came back to. I think we didn't get what we were expecting. I think we got a cheaper version.
You can have them submit a proposal so it can get approved.
the guy I talked to, Mark, is currently on vacation, but I will get a hold of him as soon as he's back and get something. And one more note, I did find the 2 cones that were missing. They were up there, somebody just took a cone and set on top of the other cones. I messaged Mark and told him that yesterday too, cause I stopped on my way back from the safety meeting and said, wait a minute, and so we do have the cones.
Good news, no cone thieves.
Yeah.
The next thing that came up was the need for the pole building and a plan to get that trailer removed before it significantly injures somebody, which I think came up during the DOC inspection, Warden, about
Yeah.
that trailer.
They did, but they just asked us to secure the trailers, which we did right away.
There's locks on all the doors.
But they didn't wanna walk in. They were afraid to walk in.
Nobody should be walking in them. So in terms of the pole building and that being removed, that probably also needs to be a board action.
Put it in the budget and get a request and put it in the budget, estimate how big and cost.
Warden, you got that on your list? I did meet with Rodney about the tree removal, so we have a plan. He's gonna start taking care of that, and we already talked about the inmate community service project with Mr. Schubeck. That was it for the plan of action committee.
Any questions for the sheriff on the plan of action committee? All right, we'll move on to the warden's report.
Okay, Warden's report from May 1st to May 31st. We had 76 male admissions with 24 female admissions, 80 male releases, 26 female releases. Average daily population for the period was 144 inmates. Inmates as of 5/31/23, we had 110 males in custody and 20 females. Total admissions as of 5/31 was 454. Transports from the prison, we had 7 hospital, 1 orthopedic, 11 specialists, or 19. We had 1 day of hospital duty in the month. That concludes the report.
Mike, I got leave. I'm quorum for the action committee meeting in like 2 minutes,
Okay.
but they won't be
Thanks, Roy.
See you later.
Alright, do we need does anybody have any questions for Ward? And we have a motion to accept the warden's report.
Motion.
Motion made by Dan, is there a second? I'll second it, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Executive session, do we need to go in executive session? I think the warden clarified, he sent us an email on a personnel matter. I don't think there was a recommendation made to this board on any, and that we have to take action on, so I don't think we need to meet an executive session on it. I think that we're trusting the warden to do what he feels is necessary in these circumstances, that's what I got out of it. Is everybody in agreement with that? We don't need to go in executive session for that. Is there anything else we need to go in executive session for? I mean, nothing, then we won't go into executive session. Is there any, personnel report? Everybody's got a copy of it?
Yeah, I usually don't read that one.
Oh, I don't. A motion on the
Motion
personnel
to
report?
approve the personnel
All right, is there a
report.
second?
A second.
Second by Chris, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any new business?
Excuse me, I wanna go for, just a quick update on the DOC inspection. I got the preliminary draft back on Friday. They have given me 30 days to respond to some of the things they want corrected, which I've started working on already. We should get a response, I have to get something back to them by July 15th, and then we should get a response back from the DOC soon after that. One thing they did tell me, I just wanna make the board aware, the inspectors did tell me at the beginning of the inspection, don't expect 100% compliance because of the shape that the jail was in prior to this inspection. They were very picky, and like I said, we corrected a lot of stuff on the spot that they raised questions about, but there are some things that they still need me to fix, which I'm working on. But they did caution us that if I was looking for 100% compliance, I wasn't gonna get it. And they told me that before the inspection began.
How could they tell you what it's gonna be before they even do it?
I was a little
We're
shocked
gonna
by
That's
wait
a
that.
till we
fair
found
inspection.
something.
I was shocked by that myself, but they said it before Derek and I took them on the different tours of the facility, and, you know, but that was their response.
Well, I reviewing everything there, I didn't think it was that bad, I thought it was real picky to begin with, especially after we've already had, you know, that we're working off that plan of action.
Yeah.
Did you send that report out?
I only sent it to,
Oh, okay, so you have it.
I got it.
Okay,
you got a copy and I got a copy, and then I said they gave me 30 days to respond.
Did it, so we didn't send it to everybody?
Oh, I think just went to you and
Just-
me.
Just me and you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
we'll get that out to everybody. I apologize for that, I just thought everybody got it. Okay, we'll take care of that. It was all picky stuff, there was really a lot of the stuff on SOPs, little things like that.
And a lot of stuff they asked for is already in our SOP. What happened is, they were coming in on the 23rd of May, I think it was. They sent me an email on the 19th that they needed all this stuff. I went in and worked on a Saturday and got them everything I could. Apparently, it wasn't enough, or they didn't wanna go through everything I sent them. So now I'm going through it again and resending stuff I probably already sent, but yeah, it was very picky.
Yeah, we'll get it out to everybody. Okay, anything else under new business? Any old business? Any correspondence?
Did you wanna deal, Mike, with what the words have today on the inmate?
Oh, that's what I talked about, whether it needed, the inmate?
Yeah,
that
I
the one
wasn't
we
sure.
got- No, I said, the warden, if there was something for us to take action on, we were gonna go in executive session. Otherwise, I felt it was something that the warden should take care of on its own
That's fine.
from a disciplinary standpoint. So that we didn't really need to talk about it, cause I think it's within his discretion, unless he's asking us to do something that we would have our power to do, like termination or suspension or something like that, but if he can handle it internally. Okay, anything, any correspondence? Solicitor's report?
No report.
Okay, then is there any further business?
Yeah, one item, Jim, and I was gonna bring Sam from HR up here, but with Mark's absence, I didn't wanna do that. Your position on daily entry of time versus the manner in which, COs are putting in time, cause it's creating a nightmare downstairs, and it has been for years.
Payroll,
Yes.
yeah, it ties up 2 guys every other Monday.
Okay, so when we get Mark back in here, let's have a discussion, because I keep hearing the proposal is to go to daily entry of time. And it's creating problems for you guys, for HR, and, all right,
At my first stint as a warden, I did our payroll all the time. And it was nice to come in every day and update it every day, and then I'd come in on Sunday or early Monday morning and I'd finish payroll. It didn't take 2 people 16 hours to do payroll. It took me, because I could do daily entry, it took me a couple hours to finish it up on Sunday. The hardest part back then was chasing down timesheets.
right.
But I would update it every day, so that I'd come in on Monday, I'd have to do Saturday and Sunday, and that was it.
Yeah.
It isn't the endeavor that it is now.
Okay,
I heard there was some look at maybe the Chrono system as well. We used that up at Luzerne,
Yeah.
it was efficient.
well, we keep talking about it, but we don't do anything about it is the problem. And so we probably really need to take it, we have some leadership changes that have taken place that could probably facilitate it, all right. That's all.
But you were right, that it is a headache.
Okay.
Anything else, for the order? With that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.